Over the next 2 weeks, we'll be studying around 25 flowers that are common in our area, particularly at local florists. I'll also be requiring you to know the type of flower. The type of flower may not make much sense at first, but it's based upon the 4 ways you can classify flowers in the unit that we're covering during the week of September 21st through 25th. Let's get started. The first flower is stock. Stock is a very fragrant flower. It is a line flower because the blooms go up and down the stem. This flower is called stock. Gladiolus or glads is an old-timey flower that many people had in their landscapes. This is a line flower. Notice the flowers do go up and down the stem. Can be lots of different colors. This is called gladiolus, a line flower. Freesia, F-R-E-E-S-I-A, freesia is another line flower. Doesn't always have to be yellow. Looks a little different than most line flowers because it kind of has a vertical, horizontal line instead of a vertical line. This is called freesia. Liatris, a line flower. Liatris, used as a background flower many times. Somewhat of a attractor to pollinators. Liatris. Snapdragon, a line flower. I believe it's the final line flower we'll look at. Snapdragon, notice the flower blooms primarily in the center and ends up continuing to bloom all the way up the stem. Snapdragon, a lot like stock and gladiolus, are very common to set the background at funerals, funeral home arrangements, and arrangements maybe at a church building. Some say love, it's like a razor. That song, The Rose, can be used to remember this one, the most common flower, the most commonly purchased flower, the rose. And because it's common, the rose is an example of a mass flower. The definition of a mass flower is a single bloom on top of a single stem. So the mass flower, rose. The Gerber daisy, very popular flower, grown in people's landscapes, grown as an annual around here. We grow it in our greenhouse at the high school, but also can be used in flower arrangements or bouquets. The Gerber daisy, a form flower. A flower with one of the longest vase lives of any that we're looking at is the carnation. You know, if you've ever gone to a country where everybody drives pink cars, it's called a pink carnation. The carnation is a mass flower, I can see how one would argue that this is not a mass flower, but one central bloom, even though it's many blooms making up that flower, but we call this a mass flower, and it is a hydrangea. A hydrangea is a common landscape flower, but also used as a cut flower, hydrangea. The sunflower, if there ever was a mass flower, this would be it, based on that one single bloom on the end of one single stem, very large bloom in fact, but not all sunflowers are. Mammoth or giant, this is the sunflower. The chrysanthemum or mum, this picture here, common in the fall around Halloween. This is more of a filler type flower based on its appearance. There's also such thing as a football mum. A football mum is a larger bloom, would probably be more of a mass flower. And then there's a spider mum, which can actually be more of a form flower. But the one on the screen is a filler flower, mum or chrysanthemum. The aster. Aster is a great example of a filler flower. Looks like little small daisies. They don't have to be white and yellow, but their most common colors are the white and yellow. Aster. Statice is another common filler flower. The stems of the statice actually have fin wings on them. If you know landscaping, you've heard of the winged euonymus, but the wings on statice really help set it apart from the other flowers. Almost a sea foam look to it. This is statice. Next, the filler flower known as baby's breath. You may know it more as the scientific name gypsophilia, baby's breath, or gypsophilia. A common wildflower that I could see being called a line flower, but I'm going to call it a filler flower because of the size of the actual blooms, is delphinium, D-E-L-P-H-I-N-I-U-M, delphinium. The Alstroemeria lily. Alstroemeria lily is the first example of a flower that we might call form because it does have a unique shape to it, and the form flower is a flower with a unique shape that attracts attention. This is the Alstroemeria lily. My Little Buttercup has the sweetest smile, smile, smile. That song about the buttercup, also a little bit like another name, daffodil. Come on, you daffodil. Or what you most likely know it as is a March flower. All three of these names for the same plant, daffodil, March flower, buttercup. It's a form flower. The iris, I-R-I-S, another one of those flowers that's probably grown in someone's landscape. The iris can be a bearded iris or a Dutch iris, and this plant is another example of a form flower. The orchid, don't overlook this one searching for a rose. The orchid is an example of a flower that is very unique in shape. There's lady slipper orchids, cymbidium orchids, cattleyas orchids. All of those have very unique shapes, and because they're unique in shape, the orchid is called a form flower. The tulip is the next form flower. The tulip, T-U-L-I-P, and it has a very unique shape. Always 6 petals. That is the tulip. The lily, L-I-L-Y, not the Alstroemeria lily, just the regular Easter lily, is a form flower. You can see that would definitely attract attention with its unique shape, the lily. Anthurium or anthurium, if there ever was a form flower, this one would also be a form flower because it almost looks fake. It's so unique and odd looking. The form flower known as the anthurium. The calla lily, C-A-L-L-A, calla lily, is another example of a form flower. The bird of paradise, may it fly up your nose. This plant here, the stem is full of future blooms. So the bird of paradise blooms. As the bloom dries up, another bloom is waiting underneath. And because you can look at this quickly and see where it gets its name, you also can probably guess that it is a form flower. I hope you all can watch this video throughout the week and the following week to review these different flowers and understand if they are a line flower, a form flower, a filler flower, or a mass flower. The test will be taken on Friday, October the 2nd. It will be on Microsoft Forms. You will have a limited amount of time to take the test to prevent anyone from being dishonest. So I look forward to hearing from you. Please contact me if you have any questions. We want you to do well in this identification test. Don't forget, keep studying, like and subscribe.